Fat Ironhead's death was revealed before the end of the day. Because Area A is highly volatile, it was common for people to die alone at regular intervals, and few questions were asked. After hearing the alert, the prison guards arrived and examined him to see if Fat Ironhead was actually dead, and it was confirmed that he had, in fact, passed away. Fat Ironhead's right eye had been pierced, and the arteries in both wrists had been slit, they learned. Even if the deceased had intended to call for help, he would have perished before aid arrived. If an ordinary individual severed the arteries of the human body, the victim could normally survive for half an hour. Xiao Qingrong's technique, on the other hand, was unique and exact, causing a rise in arterial blood flow rate in the Fat Ironhead that accelerated the rate of blood loss beyond the rate of human endurance. He could only hold out for 10 minutes before succumbing to his injuries. There is a saying in the police station. According to legend, the genuinely powerful inmates were not ordinary citizens but doctors and police officers. It was because these people were not only experts in human anatomy but could also murder people in the most delicate manner. Even if they were suspected, the odds of discovery were likely to be small due to their familiarity with the methods used to hide evidence and deceive investigators. That night, Xiao Qingrong was confined to a gloomy cell. The prison guard first sought out a doctor to examine Fat Ironhead. He died as a result of significant blood loss and an eye injury, most likely caused by a sharp blade. According to Fat Iron's brother, Xiao Qingrong, number 7543, was the last person to see Fat Ironhead before his death. Even if no one cares how Fat Ironhead died, 7543 was the last person to see him, therefore, he was imprisoned in the small black cell as punishment. In District A, for a prisoner who makes a mistake such as a small fight or murder, the handling method is to simply shut them in the small black cell. Except for them, the 40 square meter black cell was absolutely empty. Anyone who had to stay there for 3 days without food or water had to be tortured. It was a harsh punishment that had driven several immigrants insane. Xiao Qingrong, who is seated in the same small room, is neither uncomfortable nor bored at the moment. He was instead learning more about his so-called super male god system. How much are these male god points worth? I asked before you mentioned that I had 300,000 male god points. Money is by no means the deciding factor. If such is the case, his male net worth is not $300,000. It's not simply his appearance. Although his appearance in his previous life was attractive, he would declare. As a result, this super male god system must have its own set of rules. 618 was delighted to respond to its host's query. The host's contribution to society generates host male god value. According to the super male god system test, you created a large firm and provided many jobs in the host's previous existence. The host's contributions have resulted in a total of 300,000 male god points for civilization. Xiao Qingrong felt this system was quite formal after hearing the response. The worth of a male god was not determined by fame or personal talent. It was discovered to be the value of social contribution. The guy who built the system appears to be concerned about the state of the country. He had a billion-dollar business in his life, earning him 300,000 male god points. Still, it appears that determining the value of male gods was difficult. So I came to this world to transform this body into a male god? Does that mean I earn male god points for that? Xiao Qingrong enjoyed a good challenge. In his former life, times had been incredibly monotonous for him. He was even more intrigued by these new and intriguing difficulties at this point. 610 immediately adjusted to the new task pattern, clearly communicating it to its host. Yes, the original corpse was supposed to be the greatest scientist of the century, but it was framed and imprisoned. This resulted in the world's scientific decline lasting more than 3 centuries. So host was sent to this body to resurrect him as a supermale deity. When it came to the assignment, 618 became a little excited and let off a few electrical sounds, making Xiao Qingrong furrow his brows. Who is the greatest scientist of the 20th century? He attempted to recall the original's memories. This body was like any other average youngster, and his parents liked him. Later in life, his parents were killed in a car accident, and he let off a few electrical sounds, making Xiao Qingrong furrow his brows. Who is the greatest scientist of the 20th century? He attempted to recall the original's memories. This body was like any other average youngster, and his parents liked him. Later in life, his parents were killed in a car accident. From then on, he lived with his sister. His school grades were ordinary. How could such a child be the century's best scientist? What did this body create? Why was he the greatest scientist? Since he was hailed as the greatest, what is it that he created that would change the world? 618 Hurry to adjust to the knowledge, reading through the host's body's scientific and technical progress. As the host, you will build the first cancer treatment warehouse. The first intelligent pupil scanner was used to apprehend criminals and save a large number of kidnapped children. The first completely automatic car provided enormous benefits to the country. There's also the first truly intelligent housekeeping robot. Listening to 618's speech, Xiao Qingrong concluded that it was something the greatest scientist of the century would undertake but could not. Since this body was so powerful and could generate so many achievements in the future, how could he have died? Xiao Qingrong laughed. Do you believe I'm a scientist? Xiao Qingrong has no intention of studying this. He enjoyed dissecting the human body for ordinary research. 618 was uncomfortable. It appears that his host had not conducted any scientific research. But he had no idea what to do because this was his task, to be a supermale deity. So, what should I do now? It couldn't stop crying, although its computerized voice sounded odd. If the host was unable to finish his duty, they would remain in this world until the host died and reincarnated. Isn't this something you should think about? Xiao Qingrong was now in prison and couldn't do anything. Even if he went out, Xiao Qingrong knew what he was going to learn so that he could make so much. First, what kind of medical warehouse? What exactly is a smart pupil scanner? What exactly is a driverless car? Where could he go to look into this? Is it something that just anyone could do? Xiao Qingrong believes that such many inventions could not have been invented by a single individual, let alone with the technology required for these items. The surrounding area twisted quickly as Xiao Qingrong lay on the ground pretending to die, and the sound of 618 spoke in his ear. The analog learning space is now available. The simulation area is now open. The robotic voice was unlike 618, and the shimmering room was foreign. Despite the fact that it was absolutely empty, Xiao Qingrong knew exactly what he was looking for. The robotic voice was unlike 618, and the shimmering room was foreign. Despite the fact that it was absolutely vacant, Xiao Qingrong knew exactly what this area was for. He closed his eyes and imagined something in front of them. Then there was a shift in the atmosphere. In front of Xiao Qingrong was an operating table with a person lying on it. Fat Iron Head, who was already dead, came out to be the culprit. Plus, all of the necessary instruments were right there on the table. Xiao Qingrong reopened his eyes and looked at the operating table in front of him, concluding that this system was definitely useful. He couldn't help but smile as he picked up the scalpel, preparing to dissect Fat Iron Head's anatomy. 618 was stunned into a gentle shiver when it witnessed its host's activities. It couldn't even see what its host was doing because all it saw was mosaic. What are you doing, host? Why am I only able to see a mosquito? By the time Flight 618 arrived, Xiao Qingrong had extracted Fat Iron Head's heart and admired it as it beat gently. Xiao Qingrong was even more enthusiastic. He'd never seen a still-living heart before. So this is how the heart looks. I am a student of medicine. Am I not going to? That's correct. Xiao Qingrong's consciousness controlled this learning space. So, if he wanted to dissect a living person, Fat Iron Head had to be alive, even though he was technically dead. Following that, Xiao Qingrong noticed that time in the learning space continued to move, albeit at a reduced rate. 1 hour outside was equivalent to a month within the facility. Furthermore, in this scenario, there was no need to solve the physiology. He discovered cutting-edge literature and equipment. Xiao Qingrong did not study any medical warehouse because, as a result of his obsession with limbs and human anatomy, he developed a dislike for those that were unfinished. Because of his obsessive-compulsive problem, he had to replace all of the organs after each trial. Instead, he devised another method of assisting human society. Xiao Qingrong asked 618 to look into the amount of disabled persons in the globe since he had an idea. 1 billion people have impairments, accounting for 1/6 of the world's 5.8 billion population. Wasn't it better for him to aid the crippled if he wanted to contribute? Others had only spent 3 days in the gloomy home, but Xiao Qingrong had been there for 6 years. 1 hour of real-world study equals 1 month of space study. 1 day is equal to 2 years for Xiao Qingrong. When the guards unlocked the Black House doors 3 days later, they anticipated finding a dreadful scene. What they didn't expect was for him to be totally fine. Because nothing is more important in this world than his passion for learning. Not to mention how comfortable the learning environment was. During this 6-year span, Xiao Qingrong did nearly nothing but study. Where would he find the time? He just wanted to study all the time. Xiao Qingrong became a legend during the course of 3 days. Fat Iron Head had been murdered by the new 7543 in District A. He not only died, but his eyes were also ruined. Although many people did not see the incident, merely hearing the rumors gave everyone the impression that this newcomer was not easily provoked. Furthermore, when this visitor arrived for supper, he ventured to sit next to Ceirin. Xiao Qingrong returned to his cell after a long walk. This time, the detainees did not want to approach Xiao Qingrong. Instead, they were terrified. After all, if such a tiny foe could easily dispatch Fat Iron Head, why wouldn't they be terrified? 3 days later, Ceirin and the others ran across Xiao Qingrong again, who had returned to the cafeteria for dinner. He was dressed simply in a suit with his printed number, 7543. Xiao Qingrong sat in front of Ceirin again after finishing his dinner. He smiled and said hello to the elderly gentleman. Ceirin is good. I believe this is a Chinese greeting. Ceirin grinned as he gazed at the youngster in front of him. He liked the vivacious Xiao Qingrong. Onan, on the other hand, for 3 days after the murder, he remained calm in the dark chamber. How could this young man be ordinary? The kid is fine. I notice you enjoy braised pork. Such a Ceirin seemed strange to Fan Yanhui and Liang Ceirin. Nonetheless, they did not believe that sending a child to this district would be ineffective. Well, I like it a lot. Xiao Qingrong nodded and resumed eating. He had been famished for 3 days. He may not have been hungry in the learning environment, but eating now feels very satisfying. Ceirin simply smiled as an elder at Xiao Qingrong's meal. But his acts today confirmed one thing: the child was not to be handled. No one would dare provoke Xiao Qingrong after today. Even Fat Iron Head's younger brothers, who were outraged by Fat Iron Head's murder and would not approach, were lustful, but they did not want to die. Xiao Qingrong noticed Ceirin's left hand had fewer digits while eating and realized he had the perfect testing object. His eyes were practically gleaming. He couldn't wait to open his mouth once he finished eating. Can you show me your left hand, Ceirin?